beautiful prospects. On one side, he commands the azure surface of the lake and the inverted image of the rural banks reflected in the placid wave. On the other, the Adda, scarcely escaped from the arches of the bridge, expands itself anew into a little lake, then is again contracted, and prolongs to the horizon its bright windings. Upward, the massive piles of the mountains overhanging the head of the gazer. Below, the cultivated terrace, the open countryside, the bridge. Opposite, the further bank of the lake, and rising from it, the mountain boundary. Along one of these narrow lanes in the evening of the 7th of November in the year 1628, Don Abbondio, curate of one of the towns alluded to above, was leisurely returning home from a walk. Our author does not mention the name of the town, 2 blanks already. He was quietly repeating his office, and now and then, between one psalm and another, he would shut the breviary upon the forefinger of his right hand, keeping it there for a mark. Then, putting both his hands behind his back, the right with the closed book in the palm of the left, he pursued his way with downcast eyes, kicking from time to time towards the wall the flints which lay as stumbling blocks in the path. Thus he gave more undisturbed audience to the idle thoughts which had come to tempt his spirit, while his lips repeated of their own accord his evening prayers. Escaping from these thoughts, he raised his eyes to the mountain which rose opposite, and mechanically gazed on the gleaming of the scarcely set sun, which, making its way through the clefts of the opposite mountain, was thrown upon the projecting peaks in large unequal masses of rose-coloured light. The breviary open again, and another portion recited, he reached a turn where he always used to raise his eyes and look forward, and so he did today. After the turn, the road ran straight forward about 60 yards, and then divided into 2 lanes, Y-fashion. The right-hand path ascended towards the mountain and led to the parsonage. The left branch descended through the valley to a torrent. And on this side, the walls were not higher than about 2 feet. The inner walls of the 2 ways, instead of meeting so as to form an angle, ended in a little chapel, on which were depicted certain figures, long, waving, and terminating in a point. These, in the intention of the artist, and to the eyes of the neighbouring inhabitants, represented flames. Alternately with the flames were other figures, indescribable, meant for souls in purgatory, souls and flames of brick colour on a grey ground, enlivened with patches of the natural wall where the plaster was gone. The curate, having turned the corner and looked forward, as was his custom, towards the chapel, beheld an unexpected sight, and one he would not willingly have seen. 2 men, one opposite the other, were stationed at the confluence, so to say, of the 2 ways. One of them was sitting across the low wall, with one leg dangling on the outer side, and the other supporting him in the path. His companion was standing up, leaning against the wall with his arms crossed on his breast. Their dress, their carriage, and so much of their expression as could be distinguished at the distance at which the curate stood, left no doubt about their condition. Each had a green net on his head, which fell upon the left shoulder and ended in a large tassel, their long hair appearing in one large lock upon the forehead. On the upper lip, 2 long mustachios curled at the end, their doublets confined by bright leathern girdles from which hung a brace of pistols, a little horn of powder dangling round their necks and falling on their breasts like a necklace. On the right side of their large and loose pantaloons, a pocket, and from the pocket the handle of a dagger, a sword hanging on the left with a large basket hilt of brass carved in cipher, polished and gleaming. All at a glance discovered them to be individuals of the species Bravo. This order, now quite extinct, was then most flourishing in Lombardy and already of considerable antiquity. For those who have no idea about it, here are some authentic sketches which may illustrate its principal characteristics, the means put in force to destroy it, and its obstinate vitality. On the 8th of April, 1583, the most illustrious and excellent Signor Don Carlo d'Aragon, Prince of Castelvetrano, Duke of Terranuova, Marquis of Avola, Count of Borgetto, Grand Admiral and Grand Constable of Sicily, Governor of Milan and Captain General of His Catholic Majesty in Italy, being fully informed of the intolerable misery in which this